Harkin actually 64 here. A very short haircut from the last video, certainly. It seems to be a yearly haircut this way. I don't know why I left, so I'll keep needing to get things like that done, never deal with it. And a fifth visit in history to Hexham Racecourse. I think quite low for a visit to racecourses in the north. I thought it might even be least of anywhere in the northeastern Yorkshire. Cartmel, I think, falls well in the northwest, and that would be, in fact, actually Yorkshire, Lancashire, northeast. I thought it might be the lowest. I don't know. It isn't quite actually. Both Sedgefield and Catterick's 4 times, and Catterick will probably get to North Yorkshire National in January coming up. I think I was considering it last year, I wasn't sure I was going to do it or not. I can't remember now. If I just cancelled anyway. I think I planned. I remember I might have planned stuff that got in between away, and it was planned anyway. And it was cancelled. Sorry, anyway. Even so, those three, including Hexham, Catterick, Sedgefield, are quite low compared to, say, Ascot. I've been to just over 22 times, York about 25, 26, and New York, of course, Newcastle about 40. Because it's just like decent racing, and all 3 tracks, Hexham, Catterick, Sedgefield, seem to lack that really. Catterick's best choices are the Dash, which I was going to try and get you last year, and then bizarrely, the polymerisation actually helped me. I was never a great fan of the stupid timings of races. It looks like they've changed that now, thankfully. That's coming back. It's changed it back away from that. And also the North Yorkshire National. Sedgefield's done national. I've been to a couple of times, and I was thinking go to in October. Was this October? Sunday, middle of October, but then I had other plans. Frankly, I've already been to it twice anyway. But I'm saying, Hexham, I often say Hexham has too much on its view, and I've got you've got a club ticket this time. My issue, I did say something about Hexham, wasn't convinced about its quality of its race. Someone said, applied to me on, still on Twitter, saying, they really like Hexham. It's fair enough, I know some people do. Not just for viewers, they like the course. When the last time I was there, one of my issues, I think maybe a time before, I tried to buy a club ticket, got to the club enclosure, suddenly found out I didn't have a club ticket, wondered what was going on, went to the office when I bought a ticket from them, said, we run out of club closures, a ticket. So basically sold me something else. So he didn't charge me more for it, to be fair, the grandstand type ticket, but he didn't tell me it's sold out. Just if it, it's really, it can't be to tell someone something's sold out, so they're selling you something else instead. It's fine, fair enough, selling me something else. But just tell me. What was going on here? Hexham, it's a £10,000 plus winner to win a race. And it's a sort of, I don't know last time that's at Hexham happened. I don't know if I'm a national metal was up and I just didn't get around to it. It's been a national back when that was around it stopped me about 10 years ago, I think. That might have been, it's actually on ITV4. And God knows the last time Hexham's on ITV. I think I was looking online actually. A few things about this, and apparently, it used to be something on the ITV7, the old ITV7. We're talking this is obviously before Waiting went to Channel 4 back in the 80s, I assume, must have been. So it's a tour of Hexham. It's a really good race. It doesn't say a lot though, but it's one of the best races probably of some time. There's a series of buses now coming all at the same time, frankly. I'm at Hexham bus station currently, waiting for a bus to get to a racecourse. But that's one of your best races, probably for many years, I suspect, probably a few decades maybe, even, I'm not sure. So that's that. I've said a few times, I said I've got Newcastle, a few meetings, I said I've got a Fighting Fifth coming up, 17th I think of November, which is coming up relatively, not this Monday I think, Monday after, not Monday coming, but Monday after that. I'm thinking on Newcastle, I'm not sure it's possible. There are other possibilities as well, but Fighting Fifth, I booked Ladies' Day, God knows what. Just a one-off, I think, because we've got a half-price ticket just to see the chaos possibly there. And also, frankly, Beeswing Handicap, Beeswing a well-known horse. There's a Dr. Syntax 1970, both to won multiple were top quality horses of their time. 2 are later, it's either one to side the other one or the dam of the other one. Dr. Syntax unlikely, apparently, to be the dam. I'm not sure, those 2 horses are northern horses. There's a plaque to Dr. Syntax, I think, somewhere in, Northumberland, not quite sure where. Cudder, maybe? Corbridge? So Beeswing Handicap's one on Ladies' Day. It's not as much worth as perhaps it should be. Mention one or two, I don't know. I booked for Doncaster, one of my 8 lister races I've not seen. We heard on middle of December, booked that. Decided also to go to Haydock. The race had been last fling day, 30th of December. I assume it's a punt in a way, as I'm guessing it's not just his end of the year race, but also I expected the old last fling who wanted to go a couple of times Grand National. Sadly was killed on Grand National, I think, 1 year. I'm guessing it's probably also named after him, probably the good record Haydock, for example. I don't know. I particularly last fling was there, and they were down after him for that. There's one or two possibilities. Maybe Carl on Sunday coming up. There's a few possibilities, but nothing set. The other part of this video I was going to do is pretty unrelated. And last yesterday I was at was a very good, I'd say, production of Le Boheme. I'm not really mounting things, so if you can't do the actual French, I'm afraid, as Julian Sandy said around the horn. I can't do the actual French very well, by Puccini. And it was, the singing was good, the acting was good, the look was good, the characters was very odd with the staging. It's a opera. I'd look up the exact details. I wish they had to go on the microphone just saying what the I think it was a signed one as well, as in it was someone doing signing, or obviously with deaf people, for example. And but also give a little introduction at the start of it as well, saying Wayne was said, I thought it said France 1915. I then realised, that's a bit odd, if nothing's happening with First World War, surely if it's said anyway, you have to something about First World War in the background. And I realised after a while, no, hang on, it looks a bit more modern than that. Oh, 1950, I misheard, and hearing's a bit bad. I was also back in a minute, something to wax, but also back row of the upper circle, it's like a cheap ticket I found. Had to phone the ticket all up. The second time I had to do this, because there was one or two tickets next to each other, and I wanted one, and there was too many places, because he's being single, we have issues with this, and actually won't see any ticket. Where they say, oh no, you're leaving one a seat, on its own. Well, yeah, so everywhere else is actually more, other tickets are more expensive, frankly. We want one. But both times I phoned them up and it's fine with selling them the tickets. A bit tiresome. Well, if you're going to do that, well, why didn't you just sell them a ticket in the first place without me phoning up about it? And had to get it for a box office, and then you forgot how to do that before the performance. And then later on, realised a bit later, I looked down online afterwards, it's 1950s plural, not 1950. And I was realising that. But it was a bit odd. I'm a great fan of a Mozart opera. I think Marge Figaro, one of the most popular operas around. I think probably since its performance in the late 18th century, and it's even since then. And my mum and a family friend, I'm posh, I'm living my life in Jesmond in Newcastle, from my completely non-Newcastle accent. I say Newcastle correctly, that's all I would say. Really time to the northeast, I do love Newcastle. I was then in Cortona in Tuscany, a lovely place, and we were watching a performance of Marge Figaro in a local opera house. Now it's all in Italian, there's no English subtitles because, well, it's in Italy. I mean, you can't really expect that necessarily to be English subtitles. Luckily I've seen the opera before, so I knew the plot. But it's a bit of a strange, maybe odd, I didn't really notice Space Age almost slightly backed up to it, not quite sure why it was there. But it didn't really bother me. But my mum and my family friend watching there, a few times I mentioned, what was going on then. I mentioned a bit, more than I think, needs to be mentioned, to be honest. Because I enjoyed the performance immensely, and it just wasn't an issue. Point there about the opera, Marge Figaro, you can transpose that to anywhere really. It's theme of love, lust, betrayal, revenge. It can transfer that anywhere really. The only bit that can't usually right at the start. It's in it. Now, I say there's two very, very good films. I found that's filmed Braveheart and Gladiator. Both are great films with terrible history. And Braveheart, the stop Braveheart, there's a bit about the Lord wanting right to basically have sex with anyone, whoever's going to be before their marriage. Oh, the Lord can have sex with a wife. The perspective right first, and it's a major plot point of the movie. How true that was in reality, it's debatable. I mean, frankly, lots of film's history is debatable, bluntly. Great film, especially Pat McGowan's fantastic after the first, but it's a bit. The rest of the least, like Gladiator, is immensely ropey. But apart that part, you can put that in the 20th century New York, and 16th century Amsterdam. You can switch it almost anywhere. The themes are pretty universal. There's nothing really there which you can't transpose to somewhere else, and so you could do. In, like say, the Boheme was 1950s powers, you could switch Bob Mazda Fickle's 1950s powers. The only issue you couldn't really do right at the start is this part about, so the Duke of Mazda Fickle has given up his right to do this. As a celebration, thank you Duke for removing this right you apparently have. And then he starts lusting over Susanna, the fiancée of his servant Figaro, both Susanna's the maid of the Duke of the Duchess. And so that's what's happened. So that's the only part you couldn't take that part out, frankly, without any great problem. In the opera, the rest of it could just transpose to anywhere. There's universal themes. The Boheme isn't. It's set in 1830, written late 1880s, and it's based on something made in the 1950s. Puccini doing the opera. But it's set in 1830s Paris. There's a problem trying to make it 1950s Paris. Because, well, the Mimi, I don't know how to get the plot away here, dies at the end of tuberculosis. Everyone know anything about two poems of opera buffo, comic opera. Everyone sings, there's a marriage at the end, basically. I'm a serious opera, I can't remember the name of it, to put it up here, maybe if I remember. Everyone sings, and then the woman dies, like in Carmen, Love, Traviata, La Boheme. And, brain's gone. Didn't have enough sleep last night, trying to do opera criticism of not enough sleep isn't great. And so it's set in. But it's set in 1950s. Now it was set with a group of people who were artists, and what they'd set up was like an image. They set up images of Mimi, and like I put this up here, Andy Warhol's prints of the period, one of that period of Marilyn Monroe. They were on prints. Problem is, tuberculosis, I thought, is that 1950s really happening in the 1950s? You're setting it then. And I checked on tuberculosis rates are collapsing in the 1950s, as in, death rates. So hang on a minute, this is June this year. I mean, I was actually brilliant to have to put George Orwell's Politics of the English Language, I think it's the name, I'm not exactly, just happened to read it just the last couple of days, and an absolutely brilliant piece of work. I mean, everyone about the plain English campaign, about awful language, and this is just a fantastic from George Orwell. It's just worth reading now, basically still. But he died, as I expect, he died of tuberculosis in 1950. But the rates after he died went down very, very heavily. And the question here now is, well, how likely are we really to die of tuberculosis in Paris in the 1950s? It's really quite low. Now, if it's the early 50s, okay, it might be more likely, because I say it went down heavily in the 1950s. But Warhol and prints of Marilyn Monroe are a lot later. Well, late in the 1950s, I think it's the 1950s. And so tuberculosis rates are going down by then. I'm not expecting total realism or not, but staging actually makes sense, and this frankly doesn't. Like, the heating, one of the plot points at the start is Mimi meeting the person, lover of the later on. I can't remember his name. Oh God, sorry, I really can't remember pronounce it the exact spelling of it. Her candle has gone out, and because it's a bit of some poverty, and it's obviously nowadays, of course, but poverty, some poverty. People are sharing a flat, apartment, and she's a neighbour. Candle's gone out. Goes to her saying, "Can I borrow your candle?" Basically, or to light my own candle. But the fact, which is still pretty poverty, but there's a fridge in the background, and I'm thinking, hang on, there's a fridge in the background. Why are you using a candle? It just rejected position, to use a posh word. It made no sense. I mean, were you really 1950s using candles in the front? I might look this up and just see if I'm missing something, but I'm sure I don't know if I am. There's a fridge in the background. Why are you using a candle? Why? And so you got screen prints of Mimi via sort of anti-roller process, which either is too early. So the settings too early for with how tuberculosis may still being an issue is either too early for Andy Warhol or it's later on tuberculosis rates have gone down. But the actual performances are great. It's just the staging was mad, frankly. I don't know if there's any other issues. I might think about it for later, maybe later on, but it just, frankly, despite the stint, it just made no sense, and I don't quite know what they're trying to achieve. Why not just set 1930s, or at least 19th century? But why set it in France in the 1950s? I just don't understand it. I'm recording this extra bit in my flat. I'm not exactly a happy bunny, as I recorded about 5 minutes and found out that for some reason the sound wasn't working. So you got me talking and not actually, which may be an advantage to some people, but I didn't actually even come up with any sound. So I was a bit busy the last couple of days, so on Friday, Saturday, so I only had a chance to actually finish this today. And the point being, when I actually went to the Times of Cinema tonight, or 6 o'clock onwards anyway, to see a live simulcast from the Met Opera House in, I think it's New York, of La Boheme again. I'm going to try that again. I just said in my failed video, I'm still not sure I'm pronouncing it very well. As top quality. As I was saying, what I was going to I was recording, that I think it's a higher quality of a theatre performance overall, and that's probably because the Met Opera House is, frankly, that's what it is, an opera house. It isn't like a Theatre Royal, which is obviously a theatre originally 1830s, 1840s. Dobson and Granger were like doing stuff. As actually the original theatre was down near Central Station. There's actually a street called Drury Lane, small street there, obviously named after Drury Lane in London, where it originally was. And then with redevelopment down Grey Street to the very picturesque Grey Street to where it's Theatre Royal. So it's that partly opera, partly maybe some other stuff as well, some musicals. So it's not maybe needing a high set so you have for opera. With high end, and so Met Opera House probably has that. Probably has more money. I don't think it gone. I expect the tickets aren't cheap. Times the cinema, the Theatre Royal tickets probably aren't cheap either. I say I got a 27 quid ticket quite cheaply at the back of the Upper Circle today. Then, in terms of the cinema one. Even if it's down to a couple of quid for being a member of Times Cinema, actually still was about 23 quid, I think, so not much less, only 4 quid less than the very actually went to Theatre Royal. But the Met Opera House, it was great, with fantastic productions. I think you saw, it was quite a while actually. Started not long after, the Gather's Opera started just after 6 o'clock, so 6:15 as a sort of intro a little bit. And then it ended about nearly 10 o'clock, 9:45. And there's a guy from Opera Singer basically talking to people, doing the intervals. But one of the interesting things is you got to see the scenery being moved around, which was interesting actually. You see things happening in the background. I think the backstage is probably a lot larger in the Met Opera than Theatre Royal has. But the point is, Met Opera said it pretty clearly in it one circa 1830. I mean, it was just, and I think that was a mistake in my view. Not them, sorry, from production from North. God, nothing up. It's gone in the production in the Theatre Royal. My brain has gone. Opera North. They're actually based in Leeds, actually, but they do a lot of stuff in Leeds and also Newcastle. So it's Leeds City Council, I think, are responsible for funding rather actually than Newcastle City Council are, apart from funding. But I think it was just, I don't understand what we're doing setting it in 1950 at all, Opera North. It's a very good production, nothing wrong with it, there are good people to see it, but it was just a strange setting and it just got a bit distracting for me. I think the views of it haven't mentioned it, I think. Views I've seen were very positive, and I enjoyed it, but it was a bit strange. So Met Opera House, as I said, in 1830 made much more sense. If I'm saying it's an opera, I think it needs to be set really in its time, well, at least in the 19th century, certainly. So, going back to racing though, I've got the, as I said, 25th end of November, 30th of December, I've got, middle of December, I've got the listed race at Doncaster, which came in last year, but I couldn't make it last year. 30th of December, last fleeing race at Haydock, and I've got both the Plate and Ladies' Day at Newcastle. A little possibility, there's a possibility of a Sunday meeting, I think, at Carlisle. It's a bit more marginal. It's just about qualifies on my sort of minimum of £10,000 to win a race. I want to go something like Carlisle. Getting cheap train tickets to Carlisle, so it's not really a problem. And also, I had forgot about the possibility of Sussex National at Plumpton. I was actually going to that in last January, and it got cancelled on the day, spent a day in British Museum instead. It was a nice enough day, it wasn't why I was going to down south, so to speak, from Newcastle for. So that was interesting for that, but not for where I was going. And I looked and maybe missed a cheaper train tickets to Sussex for Plumpton, and there's also a possibility of maybe Easter Sunday at Plumpton. And I'll just have a look. I was going to look at the list of races I haven't done yet, and are left, unless anything comes in for next year. Start of March, there's Spring Cup at Lingfield. There's now, this is going to be interesting. I know this is now. I think it's okay because last year, last year 36 in my Lonely Stakes at Kempton. I did go to my Lonely Stakes actually. I failed to record. I thought I hadn't. I think I might have done actually. I'll come to start last year. Yes, I did go to it. But my spreadsheet, as I said, a bit wasn't recorded, a little out of date. No, so actually I don't need to go to that. I thought I hadn't been to it. So last year Stakes at Bath on the Good Friday, I believe. Chelmsford Stakes, I don't like Chelmsford, but that's held at Chelmsford, and that's early, maybe early May, late April. After that, for the Stakes at Newmarket July course, in the middle of July, so it was the day after Rosebud. I had thought of doing two. Rosebud at Newburn. I had thought of staying all night in summer Newburn, maybe through to Newmarket and doing both, but it didn't work out. And definitely, as little as I said, Doncaster. The others, I think Hughes and Newbury, and I think Hopeful Stakes Newmarket, I think I've done. So it's might be about 6. I've got left to do actually. Looking up it. Actually, no, I'm not sure about Hopeful Stakes. I'm not sure I did. No, I don't think I did those two actually. In fact, I've got my diary. I can check this. Great. I think St Hughes and Hopeful Stakes. I don't think I did because the train costs are so expensive. I sacked it actually. I got confused when I went to Newmarket. So I don't think I did either. Certainly didn't. No, I went to much to do about nothing on 15th of August instead of going to St Hughes Stakes. And for Hopeful Stakes, I went to see a band at Pilgrim in Newcastle. Yeah, so that's going to have to be done. So it's a Spring Cup, Lansdowne Filly Stakes, Chelmer Filly Stakes, the Aphrodite Filly Stakes, St Hughes Stakes, and the Hopeful Stakes, as well as the Mayor's Hurdle in next month. That's it then, after those. Hopefully on order next year. That'll be the end of the group grading list of races in Britain. Not United Kingdom, technically, because down Royal has the, whatever you chase, used to be Jim Liquid Chase. I can't remember who sponsors it. Ladbrokes for a while. I'm not sure who sponsors it, and that's early November. Oh, obviously, I would have missed out for this year. So, but in Britain, as you may know, Darren and Patrick are in the, despite being in the United Kingdom, like rugby, rugby union, it's an all-Irish sport, horse racing. So they're one of the Irish. So that's why it's British Horse Racing Authority on board of the Irish one, rather than the UK Horse Racing Authority. But I think that's it. I think that's the end of everything of horse racing and opera.